Yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
Thanks for the reminder.
Very good. Good day, everyone. This is Sam, and I've been around for 34 years, 32 licenses, and I found out through Jeff that I am an AIA allied, not a associate or anything else. So just something that I learned recently. Before I go to the program, there are some items that I want to take over and let you guys see. First of all, in my blog, this was the most recent lecture that I gave for LADBS inspectors. It was wow. I had 187 people and 3 people were not able to get in. I will be doing very regularly for their inspectors. So 1.5 hour lecture. I've done a lot of court cases. I've done court cases on plastic piping, etc. And it's very, very scary. And it went on and on and on. And the whole thing is here. All my presentation is here. And unfortunately, plastic industry has pushed their product into the throat of the code via code courts, etc. But they have left a lot of issues wide open for major legal issues. And plastic industry is a very, very large industry. The other issue is that I have the COVID December 8th and 10th program that I had for AIA is now I have both videos. And this is the article that is the entire article for both videos. Of course, as always, my articles are far, far larger than the time allotted for me. But these are the 2 hyperlinks from AIAOC that you could see. And the irony is that right now I do have 2 or 3 jurisdictions that I'm working with. And ironically, either independently or via this presentation, they are adding bipolar ionizations, or they are adding numbers or dollars to their existing programs to put the UVC, etc. So it's coming up, it's coming out. Now, the only thing that I can tell you is that the Delta variant is giving a little bit of a hiccup to the entire industry because it is 2 to 4 times much more impactful. And this particular item is that I was at the ASHRAE symposium. I was the first speaker. And this one, just to let you know, it was only a half an hour. And just to let you know that we had viruses since 3000 BC and all the way to I put down the 20 most impactful and some of the issues that how the architect had to impact during the history. So this is something there. And I promise you that I am working on putting this session, all of it, and it's a lot of pages, and will be online. And I would just have to break the file because the file is so large that my WordPress could not absorb it. So I'm actually putting part 1, part 2, and 3. I'm going to break it down further, but it will be up shortly, fast. And I just thought if you simply take I don't know where that went. Oh, right here. I thought you will have fun with this. If you have a great architects and you were not part of the seminar, how you would see these wonderful architectural work done. And as you can see, they are just fun to have, and all with the right slope and the right locations, etc. And it goes on and on and on. I love this guy's trying to cash his check, and it goes on. And the bikes routes has been impeded, and this is Stairway to Heaven, by the way, this one that you can see here. And God bless the door locations and how wonderful.
I don't think we're seeing the slide you're talking about.
Let me verify. I just pulled it in. Thank you for stating that. I'm gonna see where I can do this. Share. Oh, let's go here. Let me see that. I think you can see the photos. Yes.
Yes, that's better.
Yeah. So anyway, these are just fun photos that I literally typed in mistakes or errors in construction, and Google image gave me this. Hopefully we will never be, any of us will be in this position, but it simply says that it can be done. Somebody will put a chair right in front of this fabulous right here, or you can see all the bike racks will be done and then put impedance, and then the door will be at the exactly right place. And this was my stairway to heaven, and wonderful, wonderful slopes and etc. So this was just, I had that one to show off, and another one which was very simpler, but and this one, sorry.
Sam, you need to share your screen again.
I'm going to find it and I will do it right here. And I will do that share. And 1 second. And I will share this. Very good. Again, this
Great.
one, yeah, again, this was fabulous, fabulous doors. All of these, in fact, I'm going to show you the next slide. All of the errors that the ADA.gov is showing. And of course, you have seen these, and this is what I call a zigzag stairway or a ramp. And anyway, I just had to show you something. So if somebody believes in, let me see if I'm going to share screen one, I'm still there. Now, this other one, there are two sources that I have in my two sources. One of them is this, that literally I'm gonna find out if this is being seen. Again, I'm gonna share screen. Okay, I hope you all can see the ADA.gov. This is between, of course, you have Title I, Title II, and Title III, different cases, the court cases that is enumerated at ADA.gov. And if you are, hopefully you will never be in this position, but if you are a consultant and you are doing court cases, you really want to know what has transpired and what are the legal cases out there. These are, whether it's Title I, Title II, or Title III, where the access, Title III was the access. You can see the barrier-free healthcare initiatives, United States versus 30 Hope Restaurants, consent decree, and then it goes on, and this thing goes on for a very, very good while. And you can see these are just simply enumerating the cases and some of the agreements. Of course, State of California has now, you have a time frame for a 6 months grace period they have given so that you will fix your facilities. In fact, my own facility where my office is at, they missed the boat. Somehow they were not able to do the 66 months process, and they had to go back, the landlord had to go back and fix this stuff. But overall, there are ambulance chasers out there, and there are many, many, many attorneys out there that absolutely, by the way, the average salary of attorneys in the United States is very low, very low. We have more attorneys in this country than the entire Europe combined. And they have to make money. They have to find out in multiple languages, have you fallen, and in absolutely many, many languages. It's just that we do not, as the engineers, architects, etc., as a design professional, we just do not want to be in that position. I am going to be verifying every time that my screen is shared. Okay, we are still there. Now, those were a couple of cases. I actually have, at the end of this manuscript, which goes forever. It is 1,468 pages. At the very end, I snapped some of these, dropped it in there. And again, there's no way in this world that anyone can capture 5 hours of accessibility and try to simply say, hey, we got the picture. The picture is very, very wide, very, very large. So that's one of the issues. The other item that I always like to scare people is, or literally simply saying that it's just, even if you do get into a court case and you have done absolutely nothing wrong, but part of the et al., the Latin word for et al. Or and others, if your name appears there, you possibly have a $5,000 deductible. What if we call it? We call it court deflection or a legal deflection. Although the stone is being thrown at you, you have to deflect it off. You're going to spend about $5,000, and it's going to be out of your pocket. You do not also want to expose that to your legal cases, because as soon as you have that, when you go for your for your insurance, they're going to bump and they're going to make that money somehow, somewhere. So we do not want to be there. That's one part that is there. So I can tell you the following, that every time I do this, I've done this multiple times. I did it in here for Orange County. I did it a 5-hour program at USC for AIAOC. And every time I do it, I have to go back and redo it. And I find out, oops, what I don't know. One of the items that we actually studied the last time, I will only talk about it, is on part 1. It was the fact that we have this issue of what's called hardship. The hardship is now at 172,000. Some of the cities, if you go, they are still at 169, but really it's up now at 172 based on inflations, et cetera, et cetera. And mind you, it's 172,000 is a cumulative of 3 years. So if you're doing a store, an office, or in a place, the city hypothetically is accumulating 3 years of hardship. You cannot have within 3 years, you cannot exceed 172,000. And that does not include HVAC, that does not include electrical, that does not include paint. It's primarily is quote unquote structure. And within that, you have that 20% that you have to allocate just specifically for upgrading components. And they give you a list of components that you are going to be doing, and they give you the list. From their point of view, this list, you have to go from the top to bottom and provide that 20%. So 20% of 170,000 is about $34,000. So you have to go from their list. And generally, number one, it starts from the parking lot and stripping, putting painting and doing ABCs to your parking is the number one, and gets all the way down to the routing, to the space. And then possibly you do more items if you got anything left out of that 34,000. So those are the components. And again, this happens all the time. And unfortunately, a lot of city halls, a lot of individuals think the air conditioning and all those elements that are not included are part of the 172,000, which is not correct. Some cities have a very good, better, the hardship papers. Some cities don't. And some of them are very good, and you could actually see what that includes, and you have to do a breakdown. Of course, they are not darn dumb. They do know the cost of construction now. God forbid if you go to Ganal, like I did last week, a CDX, half-inch CDX was $90, and oak plywood was $155. I was buying them at 17, 25, 34. And the maximum, my oak varnished plywood was 55. Now it was 155. And it was a discussion that I had with Niall, and the story is going down. But I don't know how far it's going to go down. But overall, all of these are part of the package. The other item is that one of the stories that I sort of went through this program, and again, as I'm learning, I realized that when they talk about the slopes of the ramps, I got to tell you that if you are a handicap and you're in that wheelchair, you identify that 8.3% slope. If you're a handicap, get on a wheelchair and test it out, because at some point it becomes very, very difficult. I personally go through my exercise of trying to open up the doors with one hand, and it makes it very interesting. And so you have to use your teeth, etc. And I don't know if I told you that I buy my gloves at 50% off, just FYI. And if I speed up, most of the times I cannot get arrested because the guy can't handcuff me anyway. So given all of those, there are challenges for the handicapped persons. So the other issue that I found out recently, I was bidding on a stairs that was done in Laguna Hills. And the guy sends me, and you can't just have a stair that the stair as stair goes in, the stair goes, of course, here's the landing and comes down. And of course, there was no elements added here for the blind. And a stair was coming up this way and was going up, and this was in the backyard. There was no obstruction for the blind person to be able to protect themselves within this area. It's very, very unfortunate, but that was sent by an architect to me.
We're
So-
not seeing your slide again.
Ouch. Let me verify. Share screen. Are you seeing compilation of ADA design? And I'm scrolling down. You guys see it?
Yes, but whatever you were drawing over, we couldn't see it.
Ouch. I am going to do another test. Let me do that because I'm going to be doing that. Let me make it a. Do you see this? The yellow marking.
We see the yellow pen.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. So anyway, that is the part. Then you go through the architects both tackling issues on the exterior or the interior. There was always, to me, there was a major philosopher that simply says 80% of participation in a contest is being there. So the number one item that I really would emphasize, the fact that a handicapped person who cannot drive gets on a public transportation and first gets to that city curb, and from that pathway through the signs, through the ramps, guardrails, door entrances, enters to the building. That becomes a major issue. By the way, the word right away really is the curb. So, and there's another issue in different parts of the code that simply says, if you're doing egress path lighting, the engineer has to provide all the foot candles to get to the right of way. The right of way is not the exiting of the building, is the bus stop. So really is the street curb. So these were items that I am going to be tackling hopefully today, and hopefully I can finish. Of course, surface finishes I am not tackling. There is a very small statement that comes about is on the curbs, and simply says that they are not smooth, they cannot slide, and they have to have proper slopes, etc. The ramp, we will be discussing it as a very good length. The guardrail at certain level, door entrances, and door hardware. I'm going to, unfortunately, we don't have that interactive format in a class format to simply identify. We know the 5 pounds load is for all doors. The question that I would simply ask, and anyone wants to raise hand or just speak up, please do. What door does not have to comply with that 5 pounds? If anyone wants to just raise hand and unmute themselves and say, what door is it? Hearing none, I'm just going to respond, is the exit door. Although it's very, very, very difficult, especially exit doors, you have many, many hardwares, etc., and is a very heavy door generally. 5 pounds is every door except the main entrance. Hypothetically, throughout all of the documentation that we have, they keep emphasizing, please put automatic doors. Continuously, they say, please put automatic doors. So on a door entrance or a ADA or accessible door entrance, the 5 pound is not there, but it is very likely for security, for whatever reasons, they are not, they are exempt from that situation. Door hardware, we will see that part of.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Hey, could you clarify that once again? I'm a little unclear of what you just said. The exit doors don't have to comply with the 5 pounds.
I'm going to simply say I'm going to say it one time, and I will put it on this page when this is on this page. I will add that issue, that section that simply says all doors within the building must meet the 5 pound, which used to be much larger, but is now 5. But except the exit doors or the primary entrance door to the building. I will get that section. Let me add another word for you. In multiple high rises that I work with, multiple high rises, the air pressure, I am going to simply give you one. The new building of where Orange County Building and Safety is, when they actually were building it, and they have not fully commissioned it yet, I go to the building, and one of the city officials and I were talking. That building, the air pressure continuously leaves that door open. At the corporate plaza or Irvine Plaza, where the Irvine Hotel is, one of the high rises, the air pressure, between air pressure and the weight of the door for security, etc. The only one is the 5 pound, I understand, for securities, etc. But the air pressure is under control of the design professionals. You cannot have that air pressure. Most of the time, the building is under positive pressure and the door is continuously open. Besides energy loss, you have an ADA issue. Let me move on. I'm just going to put down that question for myself, and I will put that in within the next 2-3 days. I will put this with that moment on this particular page, and that's page 194. I'll have that for you. But anyway, door hardware, we will see that door hardware is the same, by the same token for the plumbing fixtures. You have certain guidelines for the because of the hand. Let me give you one item. 20% of the entire country, in one way or the other, is considered part of the ADA program, is part of the accessibility. As the philosophers call our body parts, as they call them, faculties, one of our faculties will give up and will be joined to that 20%. Now, the fact that the health industry can keep us alive longer and longer, our life expectancy is increasing, that 20% is increasing. My thinking process, because I do have a handicap decal, and I do always do some sort of a survey for myself of the number of ADA accessible parking spaces. you can see that it's getting much, much more difficult. And especially if you go to Laguna Woods, Leisure Worlds, and those type of communities where the population of the elderly is far higher than the youngsters, the population, your 1 to 25 ratio of parking space really doesn't work. It's just not nonsense. Of course, we have the abusers out there that are just parking, and the guy simply parks with a Porsche and puts the handicap decal and runs through. And by the way, getting a handicap decal with the red one for a 2-year temporary is very easy. You just simply go to your doctor and say, "Oh, my kneecap is not working. Please, can you give me one?" And the doctor will give you one. So overall, those should be rethought of as the time goes. So inside the building, we have the break room, which I'm not actually going to be addressing today. Public counters, again, there's 2 parts to the public counters, is that if you are I was doing Walmart for about 8 years, and when we were converting all the Sam's Club to Price Club, I'm sorry, from Price Club to Sam's Club, one of the issue was this, and the word that comes in is called equivalency. And part of the equivalency, it was the following. Well, however, the Pace stores, I'm going to apologize. It was Pace that became Sam's, and Price Club became Costco. My apologies. So when Pace was becoming, well, all those stores were already there. The issue was, what happens if they hire a handicap accountant or a handicap wheelchair person who was becoming a supervisor, and they could not provide it on the second floor. We were building a very small rooms on the first floor, and we were simply saying, if they ever hire a supervisor and or an accountant, here it is. We now have that proportionality we were giving. Or the counters, we were actually adding a small little counter for anybody who was handicapped. They would guide them to that particular counter for them to do the transaction. Or like there are many bathrooms, or the gas stations, where the individual says, if you are handicapped, please honk and somebody will come and will give you the service. So those are the elements. Employees with disabilities, that is a very touchy-feely issue, and is a very scary item for many, especially on a corporate level. The story that I don't have a picture, but it is on my wall, is as follows. ABC on the Mount Wilson has a tower. They had an individual was fixing the towers. Their tower, by the way, is one of the longest and the tallest towers. I've done literally 1,500, if not 2,000 cellular towers in different formats in different places. What happens is that tower was very unique. As this employee was getting aged with time, the problem is that he had to have accessibility to that tower. They literally built a stairway on that TV antenna tower. Literally, the irony was it was built for one person. It was the best place to go and have a sandwich, as high as you could get, and look at the entire scenery. And that's what the employees were doing. They were going up there for that. So just to let you know, I'm going to give you one more item. If you type in right now, legal cases, accessibility, or ADA, the #1 cases that is being studied is as follows, is that all these games, all these apps are being produced, but they are not for hearing impaired, or they're not for blind person. All of those, or my daughter still is very heavy in the gaming industry, that all these games have to be produced for whether it's for a machine gun, et cetera, for an able person. They had to create elements for disabled person as well. Just an FYI, if you Google any of that nature, you will see tons and tons of discussion on that format. The other item was restrooms, where we all are dealing with. I have a major spiel on here. I'm going to I'm going to really plug this guy up. Archie Corner, this guy, God bless his soul. He is using as a great website. He needs subscribers. Please subscribe to him. God bless him. He's done a great job. I've listened to him and others, of course, but God bless this guy. Bathing areas, which I'm not addressing. Exiting, I'm addressing partially, corridors partially, and grab bars heavy. Elevation changes, I do have components of it, but not heavy. Fire alarm and exit signs. I can tell you the following, that they do have these set standards, set guidelines. And as you know, in the fire alarm system, you have two systems, initiators or annunciators, and elements that will create. So the initiators are elements like smoke detectors, et cetera, et cetera. Now, annunciators are the bells for fire strokes, et cetera, et cetera. Mind you, that they have to be at 120 decibels, but don't forget, our ears, if you consider this as our ear, literally is packed. Let me see if I can do this right or fast. Let me do this. As the ear drum, it goes through, there is a field of very small straws within our earring system. And with time, if you were in the army or if you are a musician, and these what I would call grasses or weeds or elements that are they simply are literally chopped off or taken out. And if we, God bless, live 150 years, we are going to be having a hearing aid, because all of these elements in our earring system will be gone. So the 120 decibel is not just for able persons, for them as well. Plumbing system, when you had the issue of AIDS, the Ebolas, et cetera, we had the plumbing system for the ADA. Then between COVID and all those, the plumbing system got modified. The 6 feet distance rule, the elevations, all of those were modified recently. There are groups who are now looking at the plumbing system to merge all of these, come together, and possibly change the concept. All I know is Chipotle is looking at a major rollout of restaurants to be having an outside dining because of COVID. So we don't know where things are going, but I can foresee all of these codes come and converge and create new codes. Doors, we are going to be looking at a little further, and there are major issues with doors, because, we'll talk about their latches, closers, and et cetera. So that's really, if you are dealing with, as an architect, you deal with the exterior, you deal with the interior. If you're not going to be dealing with the child sections, if you deal with the restrooms, we're going to be only looking at the adults for now. And God bless some of the companies that I love, that they have done so much good graphics out there, and I just grabbed them and just dropped it in. So I'm going to call out for all the good individuals who I took their items, and hopefully this is for lecture. Do not copy, internal use for, so I'm not making you any money out of it. So hopefully Jacobian Myers will not call me to give anybody any dollars and cents. But overall, one of the most critical part, as we all have, there is what we call standards. Standards is something that a guy who is here versus Minnesota versus in different states, we all follow the same guidelines. Of course, for example, the state of California has we don't do ADA. We do accessibility through chapter 11A and 11B. So just know it. We do not do ADA because ADA is the standard that federal government gave, and they have tweaked it into 2012, et cetera, et cetera. But again, we follow the guidelines of state. So one of the corrections that we see from the architects is that someone says, you're not doing ADA, please take the word ADA out. You're doing chapter 11B or 11A for state of California. So at least let me stay with the following. That if we are doing something in Marina Del Rey, in Marina Del Rey, or if you're doing in San Diego or Northern California, we all have the same standard. The irony is that standards that we have, ANSI came out with a standard, and all the standards is 117.2, and this standard has bunch of items, and you have all these signs, etc. So American National Institute comes back and creates all these standards, so we all follow the same thing. We go through these trainings, and they force you, in order for you to redo get your licenses back, renew them, you got to go through this 5 years. Because I think they think you will forget. You will have so much Pepsi or Diet Coke or Cerveza, and you will forget. So all of these is to make sure that these standards always will be upkeep. There was one item that I learned just prior to this, and this at the latter part of the chapter of part 1. We found out that CASP guys are simply forcing those who are doing DSA work or university or educational work. You got to have a CASP guy to go in and recertify. A third party, a vendor, has to go and verify those guidelines. And that was some assembly bill, and it's now the law of the state of California. And that's at the latter part. By the way, that's very new. That was 2019. So in order for us to make sure that we are all there and we don't get sued, et cetera, we have all these standards. By the way, all my jokes have the ADA standard. They got this sticker right there. So just in case if somebody wants to sue me, I can tell you that my jokes have stickers on them, every one of them. And by the way, that's 172J section is for my jokes. But anyway, it's all there. So when you are coming out, you are finding out that this particular symbol is going to be within exactly 58 to 60 inches at that location, and the symbols. And again, we are looking at individuals who are reading the sign, and that has to be at a certain level, etc. Now, there's one other part that I also highly, highly encourage. The ADAC has come up with in the federal guidelines, they have a lot of animated, if you simply put down ADA animated videos, it actually shows that an individual who is trying to open a door, either they are paraplegic, they are in wheelchair, or they're simply handicapped. How many components, steps they have to follow in order to open the door? And one of the other lecturers from one of the northern cities, he actually tried about X number of days. He was on wheelchair, just trying to go through the process so that he can feel what a handicap feels. Anyway, just an FYI. So that's one of the items. So there are guidelines. Now, what I did was the following. I took some of the items, this is for restroom sections, and it simply says that, of course, this is a partition. I don't have it. I have another one for a single restroom. And again, every time you have the water closet being placed inside the restroom, they are always opposite. The door is opposite of where the water closet is. And then, of course, when you are dealing with the doors into the accessible stall, self-closing, gravity hinge. The door pull on both sides of the door. It can go both ways. The hardware operable with one hand. No tight grasping, pinching, or twisting. So remember, tight grasping, pinching, or twisting. The hardware is about 34 to 48 inches, and those are the guidelines. I really am going to continue to repeat that for you. Just simply make sure that we all learn those 4 items. And again, don't forget, if we all live 100 years, we will be in that position. And again, in this particular case, I'm going to be looking at this thing. The 4-inch maximum is the position you could be swinging through. I'm just giving you the 4 positions that you could have. I just enlarged it just for an FYI. Now, the other item that I'm going to emphasize here is as follows. When you come in, there is a wall hung and floor mount. If the toilet is wall hung, 56 inches. If it is floor mount, mind you that the actual drainage is here. That gives you that 3-inch with all the elements. So you got the 56 to 59, just FYI. The issue that, again, I'm going to open up a parentheses. If it is a wall hung, God bless you all, make sure that this thing is an 8-inch wall. Minimum 6-inch, you will squeeze that mother. Very, very, very difficult. But if you do put wall hung, and you got to, especially on institutional level, the beauty of the wall hung is that the pressure system is far better, et cetera, et cetera. If you have the tank type, God bless you, just watch out with that, with the pressures and all the other elements. This is just a parentheses from the other trades that I know. But so at the end of the day, water closet type, if it is a wall hung versus a floor mount, if it is floor mount, just remember the 3-inch added to the 56. And then, so those are the 3 items. Items such as grab bars, dispensers, sanitary napkins, et cetera, may be provided here. You don't have to, but the grab bars is mandatory, but some of the items can be there, and I have a detail for that. The space cannot be obstructed by baby change. Now, this came about of now they have the changing tables in the men's toilets, et cetera. And if it was generally, it was always there, mostly in the women's. But now that you have it, you just want to make sure that no other elements can obstruct this area. This area is a sacred area, and you must maintain it in that format. Of course, you all have been, I have been an architect for many, many years. These are repeats, but I'm just going to repeat it. So sorry. Since I have you here, I'm going to go back here. One of the items is there are 2 means and methods for you if you are a wheelchair person. You have to have 2 formats for you to be able to maneuver. One is the 60-inch. I'm going to go back to see if I can get my pen back. One is, sorry guys, my Surface is a little finicky today. Okay, let me see if I have it. Yes. One is your 60-inch round, or you have this particular shape where 36 and 60, you could have either shape as an acceptable turnaround. The 2 areas that you have is that you really want to make sure that definitely this area, these clearances cannot be impeded with this. At the same time, you aren't allowed to have 12-inch overlap of this door with this overturning, and you will see another slide somewhere else. The doors, again, must be self-closing, open both sides, swing cannot be within this compartment with this. This is your compartment area opening. This door must be within outside of that, and we go from there. I'm just going to repeat some of those. Let me go to These are some of my repeats, only because just wanted to make sure that I emphasize these geometries. Now, what is happening is between the urinal and the lavatory, it is 30 by 48 and cannot be impeded with any other clearances. The only one issue is this, that if this gets deeper than 24 inches, just in case, you have to take that 30 and make it a 30. That is the modification, just in case. You may have an odd position, and at the same time, that would be true for both urinals as well as the lavatories. So you have your 20 deeper than 24 inch. If it is recessed, you got to go through that. Now, the faucet, if you have the faucet push type or sensor, you must have it within. This is a little plumbing issue, I just added. So if you have the push type or the sensor type, it must operate for 10 seconds. So just an FYI. By the way, that does not hold. I just got a plancha correction from San Diego on a residential, and they have this metered section. That's only commercial. By the way, some of that is from the green code, and some of that is from the accessibility side. I'm again repeating this: the 4-inch always in opposite direction, 56, 59. Remember, 3-inch, and if you are taking your ARE exam, and this ADA is in quite a number of places. Now, all of the accessories, there is one item that I'm going to bring up, the accessories, is that this right here, this grab bar right here, has its own sacred components. And again, minimum 33 to 36. And again, mind you that it's going to have some, really, you cannot be lower than this. It becomes very, very darn, I don't know what word I could use. It would be almost stupid if it's lower, because technically you cannot, it'll be obstructing with the actual tank. The other issue that I always see, and if you are visiting your job sites, this is being brought in by the plumber, and it's in the wrong place because it is in his truck, and that was a leftover from his other job. It has to be on the side, on the open side. The dispenser, the control it simply says cannot be controlled and must be allowed continuous paper flow. That's one issue. And when they are using those giant, I would literally quiz them with those, some of the, when the paper roll is extremely large and it's not being used, it is very, very difficult for a handicap to be able to, especially on an institutional level. I have seen that become an issue. This right here, there is a problem. You see, this simply says it has to be minimum for 15 to 48, but it'll conflict with the handrail. So really better stay within that region. The other item is 7 inches to maximum 9 inches. It becomes a very, very interesting issue. One more item for you, that this simply says 17 to 19 inches. In one of the cases that I visited, and is the following. The architect of the record comes back, here's the face of the stud, right? FOS. There is no finishes here. Mind you, I am a son of a stone man. All I can say, if you have, depending on what finishes that you have, this can grow and grow and grow. Depends on whether you have a 2 cm marble or a 3 cm marble. You have a very, very light veneer or a very thick veneer. I have seen this 17-inch to you'll see it, this right here actually simply just go bye-bye. We did with an architect, we were working on a high-rise. They had the veneers there. They simply went back. They simply added on top of the veneer. All of these were against the code. and they had to go back and redo all that work back to the face of stud and build it out. So please, watch out. And we have seen that in quite a number of times. And since I may not, because I may not be doing the break room, I am going to bring up, this was a case that I got involved. I'm going to say the following. Here is the 34-inch countertop, and here's a dishwasher, and here was the floor. This floor was a bare floor, concrete floor. They were able to make this dishwasher go. By the way, there's only 2 dishwashers out there. One is the GE and the other one is Bosch, that you can actually have it for a handicap dishwasher. Guess what the contractor did? The contractor went out and simply put tiles here. Then this dishwasher, no dishwasher was able to get in, because this 34 is very, very tight. By the time you have that finishes in, it's very, very difficult. That was a monster headache for the contractor. They had to go back and do it. Anyway, this is a little parentheses of a case that I had seen in one of the high rises. Okay, so we talked about all of these wonderful stuff. There's one item I'm going to bring out. I know all the architects, everyone have these in a boilerplate details, and they just slap it on there. Just, if you do, please modify your details and simply state the following item, or at least modify the drawings that simply says that this is from the finished surfaces, or whatever these surfaces are. Because again, you got thin grout, you got thick grout, et cetera, just an FYI. The other thing that I really like is as follows. When you have the bathrooms, please use the continuous grab bars, because if you do that, all these distances go away. We did 54 floors of verification, and in many occasions, when we saw this, we knew. And when you don't see these, you had to go and measure it, because this comes from with the standard. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to give you one more quick shout out. Please, the bathrooms, they make the assumptions when the bathrooms fixtures, et cetera, are made for a 350-pound person is sitting on the stool, or about 300 pounds pressure going on these grab bars. Of course, you have another section of the code that says on a railing is 200 pounds pressure. For the sake of argument, if an individual is 300 pounds and he's pushing his hand onto that grab bar and pulling himself, imagine he has an arm, and the moment that he's causing is whatever his hand distance is plus his weight. Imagine how much moment he is putting. If those of you who've done AREs would know, you're putting a ton of moments. Please do not allow that small little number 10 screws that goes into this. And there's only 3 of them. If you have seen it, it's right here. And that comes off. And generally it goes through all of these finishes, veneers. And by the time it grabs the wood, the lumber is what we call poco, very small. And you can see all of these go bye-bye. And so please, as an architect, change your details. Again, when I am in the bathroom, I have nothing else to do but observe all these issues and the problems. So that's one item. So please do not have, or if you do have those boilerplate specs, please modify them or enhance them so that if you do not have those issues. So now, these are the other elements which are out there. The sanitaries, dispensers, and sorry, I'm having fun with my very sensitive. Okay. What is happening is as follows. you have, they actually try to discourage you, but again, remember the 48. You really want to be able to stay away from these issues. If you got towel dispensers, soap dispensers, all of these are coat hooks, and then all these shelves, all of these, you really want to stay away. The only one part that actually gets me is this right here. If you are within that boundary, you cannot exceed beyond 4 inches, just an FYI. And now the grab bars, you really don't have that much choice. The grab bar, whether it's on a staircase or a handrails, et cetera, is the same coat, and it does not make any difference. But again, other than the fact, again, I'm just going to read it. Locate grab bars on each side, one side and the back. The water closet 33-inch and parallel to the floor. Grab bars are to be 42-inch long and so forth. And they do allow, again, 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 inch. And then if you can alter the geometry of it in other world and the staircase, et cetera, here, stay with a round, make it simple, is already is a stock item. Grab bars and any surfaces adjacent to them cannot have any sharp or abrasive elements, edges that will have the radius of 1/8. Anyway, just an FYI. There was one item I'm going to go back, and I did this actually with another case. I'm going to go back to this for a few moments. No, it's coming up. It's future. I thought it's coming up. But anyway, these I have already explained it, and I'm just repeating myself. These are just repeating myself. And this was the upper 2 slides was repeating. I'm going to go to this one right here. What is happening is as follows: that if you do have a lavatory, for the sinks, the plumbing industry has already done something. If you have a sink, the sinks they actually have where the drainage are actually offset. They're not concentric or right there in the middle. But just in case, because I'm not going to be discussing the break rooms right now, but just FYI, I know one manufacturer, I'm not selling a manufacturer, but one manufacturer offset it and everybody followed suit. Primary reasons so that you can have this area intact. So that was one part. The other issue that you have, I'm going to bring it up now. This actually applies for the sink as well. ANSI standard simply says all of these, when the individual is going in with the stroller, all of those have to be protected. Actually, I have several samples. I work with a manufacturer on this issue. They have to meet to ensure, first of all, I'll give you one example. Let's say you have a cold water. Should you wrap the cold water as well as the hot water? The question was, and that it came about, if you're in a rest area, you are in a very cold climate and you have a bare skin, you go in and you attach, you're going to get a frostbite from that cold pipe. Of course, water's not frozen yet, but it is very cold and it'll hurt the individual. So when you are talking about protecting underside of all the pipes underneath the sink, you do want to make sure that you have that for both hot and cold. Hot is obvious, cold became obvious if you have a restroom. The other issue was really all those elements, all the sharp edges, all the elements that the plumber leaves, you do not want to get yourself cut. So they have those. Now, there's one item I'm going to bring up again. Forgive me, I actually went to ICC in Baltimore for a factory. There's ASTM E84. I highly recommend everybody has that for all the elements that you see here, the protective elements, to have ASTM 84. ASTM E84 is the same thing as the 2050, all the elements which are in the corridors, is the burn rate and smoke rate of the articles that burn. Now the reason is there are two groups of philosophies. That the code simply says ANSI does not elevate and bring the ASTM E84. So there are two groups of thoughts in this process. They're fighting each other. And by the way, ASTM E84 does not add any cost to the material. It's just that if it does burn, and in high schools in the United States, there are 1,200 pranksters in the high schools in the United States every year on average. And most of them, they like to burn these items right here. If it does burn, you do not want to have somebody in that room without ASTM E84, because it will burn and somebody will die. I mean, the smoke kills. And in fact, know it that 75% of all deaths in fire occurs because of smoke, not because of fire. And 95% of all fires with one sprinkler head, the fire is extinguished. Just an FYI. So now let me go to what we are here for, and we've missed our dinner and everything else. We are going to go for another 53 minutes of this together. By the way, there is in about last 15 minutes or so, I do have cases that I actually, I'm going to bring up what's called common ADA errors and omissions, which was from the Department of Justice. And I will be doing that in about 5:45 or so. But I'm going to go as many of this slide that I can. And I will have that either as a link and or in my blog, and you will have it. We'll go from there. But let me go back and come on some. Okay, there it is. So here's your basic handicap lavatory. You have the 34 here, but I got to tell you, the issue is that the 34 is not to the counter, is actually to the top of the sink. You see that right there? That is where the 34 is not top of the counter. So if you do have a fixture that is sitting on top of the counter, please allow that bump. Now, depending on what you buy, that could be anywhere, at least minimum half to 1 inch if it's a very, very fancy bowl. Just an FYI. If it's an under counter mount, you don't have to worry about it. But that becomes a big oops moment, and somebody has to pay for it. I'm going to bring up one word, which is actually, I'm going to bring up one word. I'm going to state it because I do about 3 court cases a year, maybe, and sometimes we never go. We simply, by the time we are done, it never gets to the court. It's called error and omission. What is an error? What is an error? Simply, you just made a mistake. You made a mistake. You put the 34, but you put it to the wrong location. What is omission? You simply don't have the 34, and the guy is on his own. So remember error and omission. Now, there are many, many cases. You write specification books, et cetera, and there's many, many dances you do to protect yourself. But the issue that you have, the guy will simply say, you are the architect of the record, as somebody with a South African accent about many, many, many years ago in court asked me that question. You are the engineer of the record. So if you are the architect of the record, show me that you knew this right here. You are the architect and you recorded this. you drew this so that it can communicate between you and the contractor? Or did you simply omit? Each one of them, you carry certain penalties and you have to dance around those issues. But I'm just going to give you the following. That the 34 is top. Now, top of the actual china. Now, if you are putting the mirror is actually to the top of the reflective surface. So as you know, there is a J hook. I'm actually putting mirrors in my house, a ton of it. So if you see the J hook, this is approximately 3/4 of an inch. And what they do is they put a little rubber gasket, and this that's where it sort of hides. By the way, the rubber gasket is for two reasons. One, during the earthquake, this thing can start shaking because, again, for structural reasons, you can only have because it's a solid as brittle element, code says you can have that much deflection. So you're bearing that deflection inside that rubber gasket. But again, don't forget, this is 40-inch maximum is from there. So if you put the 40 inches right here, you're going to be in trouble. So just remember, error and omission. Did you have an error or did you simply forget? So just an FYI. So now that we are there, the other issue, I will go through this in a moment with all those dimensions. The other one is, what about a wall-mounted mirror? Technically speaking, California, Chapter 11B doesn't have something, but it is for locker rooms. So again, the code says you have to follow something. You can't just wing it. I mean, you can go to start from from 2-inch above finished floor, but 35-inch, that's really, it's on the locker room, but the ADA actually has it, and that's everybody is following this, again, is from the reflective surface. Now, the reason I said I wanted to expand a little bit on this issue, there are fancy bowls out there. I just was looking at a home in Newport Beach. There are fancy bowls. Watch out with that, because those fancy bowls, if you are going to be there, don't get trapped. At the end of the day, that ADA person that needs accessibility with those fancy bowls that goes here, and by the way, there is no overflow. By the way, just to let you know, overflow is not mandatory. Those fancy bowls do not have overflow. That's not mandatory. So you have that. So again, you have the faucets and all those elements. The main key element is you still got to maintain that individual to come in. Now, there's one other item that I'm going to warn you is as follows. When you are designing, you see these min-maxes, they can conflict each other. So if you are 17 inches and maximum 25 inches, then at the end of the day, God bless you. When you have the faucets right here, he cannot be, reaching out. So everything has to move forward. So if you are following these guidelines, watch out. Don't corner yourself. It says 8-inch minimum, so you can go further, but at the same time, it can conflict with a 25-inch, so on and so forth. Again, I have not figured out all of the permutations of where the conflict is, but one of the guys who was lecturing, the simplest one is where the faucet is going to be, and for him to reach. I don't have that slide. I do have it in the very, very last, but I don't think we will get there. But overall, mind you, be thoughtful that your boilerplates, and again, you have Murphy's Law, and he used to be my cousin. You do not want to invite my cousin to your office. You do not want to have him as an employee. These errors can happen, and you do not want to own these faucets in your garage because somebody just put boilerplate stuff in there. Okay? I'm going to move on. I could talk about this more, but I got only 30 minutes of this before I get to the errors and omissions. And again, this is a blow up of that. I just placed it just in case. Okay, let me talk about urinals. By the way, here we are not talking about the plumbing fixtures. We have the opportunity when we get there. If not, we are not going to go there for now. But at the end of the day, if you do have the urinals, and mind you that I wanted to take photos of all the variety of the bathrooms that I saw throughout for the COVID. That was very, very interesting. But just overall, that was very interesting, just to let you know. But urinals was one of them that was there. And you know, let's say for the sake of argument, you were in Home Depot. There was no consistency between all the bathrooms that you were in Home Depot, or consistency at Walmart, etc. Those were most of the stores that I was visiting. But the one part that you have is that is the following. At no time, if it's a floor mount, I made a boo-boo. We end at 6:30. I think anyway, I forgot. I have to look it up again. But overall, what is happening is as follows. We cannot exceed 13.5 inches within that protrude outside of the wall. And don't forget, many times these veneers that you have here, if you are going to be changing the elements, especially when I saw the water closet urinals were becoming waterless, I saw an abuse, caulking. It was a mess. But at the end of the day, it cannot be more than that. But the maximum of a wall, the wall mount was 17 inches, just an FYI. The Ebola caused most of these products to be touch-free, and right now the touch-free, because of the COVID, has actually become more and more. And there are other issues on touch-free, which I will not get into. But overall, the boundary of this water closet, the boundary is 56 to 60 inches. As a sacred, it does not matter what type of water closet it is, that 60-inch or 56-inch is there. The only one issue was, which was if it was a floor mount, it was 59 inches for the clearances. But overall, that's one of the elements that they wanted to portray. Let me move on. By the way, we have the what's called toilet compartments. Oh, I forgot one item. I want to apologize. I'm going to go back. We have toilet compartments and we have toilet rooms. Toilet compartments is when you have a single unisex bathroom, and where versus compartments is what I'm going to go back to. I should have stayed here for one item. I'm going to state what happened. There was a high-rise that I work in downtown, and when they do the and again that high-rise was born. I made a LEED Platinum, by the way. It was the first high-rise before City Hall became the high-rise because of the beacon that they put in. I made it Platinum. But one of the issues that you have, and for God's sake, I was there. I've been there for like about 18 years. All of a sudden, there was a correction. And the correction is as follows. I'm going to state it. That simply says, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fixtures, lavatories do not count. I am certain one of the 40, 45, 46 members know the answer, but I'm going to question it. And if you know it, wave hands, pat yourself, and 46 people. Know the answer. The question is this: what happens to the sixth fixture? And now, mind you, that if you're in a woman's bathroom, you're all water closet. In this particular case, you got 2 urinals and 4 water closets. What happens is as follows. The 6th one has to be considered as ambulatory. It's a very interesting phenomenon. Well, most of the offices that I work with, it never reached to that. Mind you that these buildings, one of is 12,000 square feet plate and the other one's 20,000. Well, the city came back and said, excuse me, I have a question for you. I need you to convert the 6th one to ambulatory. Boy, oh boy, that became technically impossible to do because they had to have 36-inch clearance with the grab bars on both sides. It became impossible. So what did the architect do? What the architect did was the following. They evaluated and they went back to the city, says, okay, not a problem. It's just going to take that one out. So the city was in a dilemma. What do you do? Do you go back? Because they're correct. We can actually take one fixture out. Would we want them to take one fixture out because they didn't need it? Or if they're going to leave it in, they're going to be going against the ambulatory requirements. So, but at the end of the day, the building did not do anything. Okay, that's one item. And there was another item for doors when you get there, and but it's in the same situation that occurred. So that is something that I'm going to repeat. Ambulatory is when the 6th water closet fixture, again, is going to be water closet on the men's side, and definitely women's side will be water closet. So is added as 36, and you have to have the grab bars, and what you have is a single grab bar, the long grab bar, 42-inch on either side, and again, 36, all those guidelines. And again, I really, really beg you to the following. Please go to the ADA, Department of Justice website where they have done all of these. And again, verify that if the individual comes through crutches, comes in there, how many steps the guy has to follow before actually uses that is really, really intriguing. And what happens if you miss one of those dimensions or one of those items? And there's one item I'm going to bring up again, is that in the United States, they're having, the American Airlines has realized that the weight of the individual passengers during COVID has increased by 8 pounds. Just an FYI, I just learned it today. And therefore, they're actually increasing their verification of their overweight, the weight of their carry-ons, et cetera. They're actually checking because they have to spend more money on jet fuel for the 300 or 152 passengers times average 8 pounds. They have to carry 1,000 pound or 2,000 pound extra weight of fuel. So either they have to increase or they have to charge people for them. There was an occasion I was coming from London back. It was through British Airway, and the guy weighs my bag and simply said, I literally had an artificial arm inside that bag. And he says, it's too heavy. I said, not a problem. I simply took the bag out. I took the bag, I wore my artificial arm and said, okay, now it's light. He didn't know what to say. He was just numbed. But anyway, just an FYI, that was one issue. Before I go to the next slide, I was in getting an X-ray for my teeth, and as the guy puts the shield, the lady says, hold this one with your left arm. And now you got all these, and I couldn't tell. All of a sudden, oh, anyway, the lady for about 30, 40 minutes was apologizing for 40 minutes because he didn't see it. But overall, that was the ambulatory cases. That was something that we had. That same building, we had another case that I will bring up that had to do with doors. So anyway, I'm just you've seen this particular slide before. The only thing I can say is that if you massage this thing, the mins and the max have to be met. And don't forget, I'm not even showing the water, the fixtures. You do not want to have a conflict there. The only one issue that I saw in the high rises, they do have for the break rooms, they have these openable areas. So if the guy is handicapped, he would open the door, he would go in. Otherwise, they would have this very, very nice veneer elements so that it would not be ugly, but just an FYI. Now, don't forget, the handicapped person does have the feet does come out, and it actually is 6 inches protrudes out. He needs that 6 inch for the for these dividers. But on the other hand, when the issue of, if you remember, genderless or no gender bathrooms, remember that case that happened during the Obama's time? Everybody was thinking of how can they have multi-sex, different sexes to go into the bathroom, have the privacy. They were looking at this issue, and I'm going to draw this. They were actually going to block these, give each stall to be totally independent. However, if you do that, the depth has to be greater than 62. The depth on floor mount has to be greater than 65. For side partitions, if the width is greater than 66 inches. So you can ignore it, but God bless, you have to now add another 3 inch to that. So do not forget, this 9 inch was there for a purpose. And we will see that, you're going to have those door kickers at the very bottom where you put those metal elements. They use that to push the door as well. So it has multiple reasons for excuses to have them. By the way, philosophers call out body parts faculties, just to let you know. So we are going to use this, but anyway, I think I have said that. Now, again, handrail requirements, you can have variations in handrails. And I have seen this multiple versions. I have seen some guys on Hispanic restaurants modify this to look like, some sort of a Hispanic element, Spanish style component. But other than these guidelines, you really have no room to wiggle. Just an FYI, okay? Just, I don't want to repeat it. There's one part, again, in that same high rise, and this was a very, very good size architectural firm. I'm not going to name them, but if you have all these corridors, you cannot have a person with what's called a blind person or very, very low vision. By the way, if I live 99 or 100, 110 years or whatever, I will guarantee you I will either be blind or low vision, given the fact that, given our lifestyle, et cetera, cataract, et cetera. And I just found out yesterday, about my eyes. So it's going to be there. Therefore, when we are using the cane to move around, or we are going to have some sort of an element, some sort of a bionic element added to our system, we're going to be looking at these obstructions. Remember the staircase that I mentioned that I saw that somebody sent me, and I haven't gotten the job yet. You're doing this staircase that goes in, there's a landing, and then, it's coming back. There was no obstructions here for that 80-inch element. There was none. So let me leave it at that. So what is happening is you cannot have anything next to that wall protrude more than 4 inches, or elements, you have to have that 4 feet maximum element, and at the same time 80 inch to this element right here. So if you're telling a blind person or low vision capable person, here's the pathway for you to exit, you have to maintain that this 6 foot 80 inches by 4 feet, 3 feet, I'm sorry, 3 feet with a 4 inch maximum protrusion out. So stay with me. So you have to have that clearance for protruding objects. So now we go down. Oh yeah, so in any case, I have other examples, different places. I wish I would have had time to show you some of the videos. Again, I'm going to let you have that. And again, I'm trying to raise your conscious level that you're not just an architect. And again, remember, we all make mistakes. A blind person, a handicapped person could make a mistake as well. But we have that obligation to meet that section of the code, 2-11721, for that section. We got to make sure that the protruding objects do not go away. Now, there was one very, very interesting item that I saw in Japan. In Tokyo, this was very interesting. I saw it in one other country in Middle East as well. What is happening is this. In Japan, what they have done is that the bricks have directions. So if it comes about, and this is a main train station, and there is a major divider here it shows multi-direction, and he can identify that here there must be a major directional changes, etc. But that was very, very interesting. We do have protruding objects that we will see for the outside, but it was very, very interesting that a blind person, do not have it here. A blind person could be actually given a guide through the train station, etc., where to go, and if there was going to be a major terminals here and there. I thought that was very interesting. That was very, very, I did take a photo of it, but that was a long time ago. And it was very simple, very simple. I am certain that they have a standard guidelines, etc. So now we are at the doors, and there are multiple components. If a door, if you're going to be talking about a door, come on, my file is big, so it's a little finicky, and that's why this is the hinge, this is the latch. So the hinge side, the push side, the pull side, this is the push side, this is the pull side, this is the hinge side, and this is the latch side. Okay, so if we simply have this nomenclature, there is something else that I'm going to add. Is called closures. We'll talk about that later, and then when we get there. So what happens is the following: 3 approaches. There are 3 approaches that you have on the push side, and you have 3 approaches when you have on the pull side. Okay. Now, you could have the approach on the hinge side, latch side, or the front side. So if this is the front, sorry, I'm going to change color. So this is the front and this is the front. And then of course, you're approaching from this side, from that side, et cetera, et cetera. So the nomenclature is once again very simple. Hinge, latch, pull, push. So you have that. And then latch, hinge, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have the approaches. You got 3 on this side, and this side, 3 push side, and the 3 pull side. And again, I'm just going to put one more nomenclature, and this, we are going to call this the front. And we call this the front. So those are different permutations that we have, and each one of those has the dimensions associated. Again, God bless you. God bless all of your archives. You're just going to pick them up and choose them accordingly. But there's one issue. What happens that this place is going to be a fertility clinic? This place is going to be a chip manufacturing. Right now, it's cannabis. So this place is going to become some sort of a secured region, and you have to put cards. Because of COVID, one of the issues that I portrayed in my lecture, you really want to compartmentalize every one of these divisions of the company so they have the least interaction and the least amount, because this COVID is not going on anywhere. Same as influenza has never gone anywhere. So in most of the places that I worked with, the legal department is a different place. The chip manufacturers, this is where you keep your patents. These are different. But at the same time, compartmentalization. All of a sudden they say, now you're going to be putting door latches on those. You're going to be putting self-closing on those, et cetera. Self-closing, all that will change these dimensions. How? It increases more room for the individual to pull. So mind you, all of these definitions that we talked about, and God bless you, I know a lot of you have had all the blessings of the world. You've been an architect for so long, you know it by heart, but we are here to remind you that you can get Alzheimer's and forget. So we are just reminding you so you can renew your license. But from my point of view, if all these dimensions are there, you know that these 4 different, hinge side, latch side, pull side, push side, 3 approaches on pull side, 3 approaches on push side. And then you got pull side approaches, you got hinge, latch, front, etc. From this point on, when you're talking to your staff, you're going to use only and only this vocabulary. Now we have become a linguistic professor. So we will keep this forever, and we will only talk with these words and these terminologies. And that's the main reason I brought this up. So if you talk to your contractor this way and he picks it up, and slowly we become a uniform society with one language. And if you watched Saturday Night Live, it didn't matter what you asked for, you were going to get what? Cheeseburger. Remember that. You're going to leave that moment. Clearances. I actually wanted to pick up different places, and I simply said, let it go. I'm just going to go pick up from the code book. I had different ones from different places, and these are straight from the code. Now, remember the following items again. I'm going to repeat them. This is a front side approach. This is a front side approach. Now, if you simply are coming in and you're pushing it, right? Guess what? You open the door, your body, your legs, your machine, your wheels will push it. Is only 48 inches, right? is only 48 inches. What happens here? Look at that. If you have closer and a latch, now you have to exercise and do maneuvering, and that's where the 12 inch is born. Okay, the 40 did not change. This is required for more maneuvering. The guy comes in, opens the door. Now he has to press with another hand, has to reposition himself, and now slide through. That's one of the reasons I really hope you all can not watch Netflix and watch these videos. Maybe I'll put all of them with a hyperlink into my phone. And as you're waiting for your wife to come back from shopping, aha, honey, I know what to do now. So you go from there. So again, you see the similarities between the two. That's my prayer. We pick up this too. You see the sisters, how they have sister together? Is because of the closer and the latch. If it doesn't have a latch, it just opens like restaurants, bars, etc. You go through, not a problem. So now that I've covered that, let me go to the other ones. I am trying to find out, there was one item that I learned a long time ago in history. It's called roots. If you know the roots of every one of these, where they come from, you will become, as in the movie Matrix, you can combine all of these to little zeros and ones. And before you get to the client, you know them all. Before you see the plan checker, you know them all, and you can hit and do a jackpot. Okay, let's do more. So now, by the way, only because I am talking, it's very hard for me. I know 13 individuals are communicating in the chat. It's very difficult for me to go there. So I'm going to resort to that to the end of the program. So forgive me for that. But every chat, every one of those chats will be copied, and I will address it, if not today, through the blog or some other way. So let's stay with that. Now, remember, let's continue with that thought process. You see the front side? That was on the push side, front on the pull side. You're opening the door, right? Now, the difference between this format and this format, where you are pushing front push and the front pull, lo and behold, 18 inches. That's where they came in. Okay? Remember the 12 and 18, everybody's brother or sister knows this, or even their grandmother, call your grandmother, they know about the 16, 18, and 12. No questions asked. The question is why? Is because the amount of force that the individual and the amount of room that you need, another 12-inch that you need as maneuvering. Again, he has to pull, actually take the wheel out here, and then he puts his leg here. He maneuvers with one hand, and then he pulls and he opens the door. And mind you, all that pressure at the same time, because the door closers are there, he still is holding this door. Okay, so that's the critical. And don't forget, of course, your door handle must be proper. You do not want to put that in there, because it's like me. I have to put my cup down, my water down, open the door, hold the leg, and then open the door. Okay. Okay. Now we got that out of the way. So, by the way, I do have a course called Handicap 101, and it's free. Okay. The first part I'm going to show you is how to tie your shoes with one hand, or how to tie your necktie with one hand. Okay. By the way, all my tickets that I get they will never give me concert tickets for free, because I refuse to applaud. Anyway, so now that we got those out of the way, remember, all my jokes have ADA stickers on. So now that I've taken that out, you saw the similarities. You saw the similarities between the two, but you also saw the differences, right? You saw the 48 between that and this mama right here. You see that, okay? So the front side, we sort of took care of it. Now we are going to go forward. Now you are doing the hinge approach. You're coming through the hinge. Mind you, you got to go through the door. Here's some sort of a barricade, right? Or is another element. There's a statue, there's a monument, there's something there. At the end of the day, you got to find yourself enough area to come back and combat this door. You like that word? Combat that door. Hence, when you're coming in, now, if you are coming in, okay, that was the hinge side, pull side. There's one item that is sort of missing. I have, so sorry. I have it, sorry. I almost lost it. Now, I am going to draw a little wall here and there. Sorry, my drawing's not as good as you guys. Let's say there was a wall here. There was a wall here. If the wall is there and you have 60 inches, God bless you. That is 36. And you can go ahead and put your statue of your awards right here, or build something. You can do whatever you wish. But if you have only 54 inches, your maneuvering becomes more. All of that, again, you want to compare this with this. The difference is your 60, see that 60 and that 54. Okay? I am trying to simply say, remember, if you had all those permutations, I added 3 more permutations. Does it have closers? Does it have a latch? Either of them will trigger this. At the same time, if the spacing that you have is 60 inches or 54 inches, okay? Thank you. We move on. Sorry. I am not trying to ponder on this, only to show you how these differences became. Again, at the end of the day, if you know where they come from, if anybody can put it on a snap on the chat room, where the 44-inch minimum access came from. I don't know. If you were here, I would have given you some cookies or something. I don't know how to do it through Zoom. Or maybe I'll guide you to use my today is the Amazon day. You can buy stuff, you can use my Amazon. But anyway, regardless, I'm just going to let you know where that 44-inch came from. Everything has a reason, just an FYI, just to let you know. So now, this particular case, you are doing a hinge approach and the push side. Look at this. The dimension actually went down to 42 inches. Remember this? This was 48. That was 54. That was 48. This becomes 42. You could actually have a 42 corridor and a 22-inch minimum. Again, you're pushing it and you're moving forward. Now, we have that. Guess what happens? Slow. Look at that. The difference between this and this, you still are doing a hinge side. This is a push side. You're doing a hinge side and a push side. Lo and behold, what happened? 48 because of the closure and the latch. Again, the distance is required, not because the guy has a lot more muscle or has less muscle. The individual has to carry himself through that machina, the machine, right? The issue is closure and latch will create additional space. So the 42 became 48. Okay, you're done with that one. Now you're coming on the latch side. This is the latch, remember? You're coming, this is on the pull side. It is 48 inch. You need 24-inch minimum. So you can put a little statue here, but he still needs a 32-inch clear. By the way, if I don't get a time to put that in. If you have a corridor and this thing is 32 inches, you can have it for a very short distance, 24 inches. But otherwise, it has to be 36 inches. By the way, a 36 door is actually at best 32 or 33 inch because of the door jambs, etc. So all these companies who are building stuff modular to be able to bring it into the building, whether it's a furniture or as a piece of motor or an engine, they all fit that so that the guy can put on a dolly and it would go to the 50th floor, change a pump, bring a chair, bring a dolly, bring whatever. Or they go to IKEA, they micronize it to the nth degree, and you follow 5 days later, you have a chair, okay? So just an FYI. That's how the 32 became sort of a guideline to all manufacturers. So we just picked up one more item there. Let's move on to the next one. We are doing, again, we are comparing one to the other, what's transpiring one versus the other. Again, where we are is the latch side pull, right? Latch approach, that's the latch, you're coming in this way. That's the latch, you're coming this way. The door is actually pulling, this one we are pushing. Because we are pushing, the distances are shorter. However, in both cases, the 24 inches is the minimum required that on here and here, but one is 48 inch and the other one for the corridors. And again, assume this dashed line is an imaginary wall. It's an imaginary wall here. That's 48. So again, remember that. Now, guess what happens? When you add a closure, my goodness, by the way, my goodness was patented by Shirley Temple. 48 inch becomes 54 inch. Okay? 24 inch does not change, 24 does not change, 24 does not change. So if you're going for CASP exam or you're trying to take your ARE, et cetera, or you want to be a wizard in front of your clients, that's 42 because of this, you can memorize all these. But there is a table. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to tell you what table you're going to be using at the end of this road. If you go in, and last but not least, I think I forgot this one, is the latch approach push side door with a closure, and that's still 48. And again, you're comparing it with the pull side, which was 54, and this became 48, okay? Versus 42 versus 48 because it has the closures, right? Very good. By the way, just to let you know, is that all closures have they are hydraulic. They do have an element, there's a little screw that you can adjust for how much pressure that he needs. And by the way, the actual instrument to verify that you have a 5-pound pressure is very cheap, very cheap. I think every architect should have it just to verify, to make sure that if you're in a building, you could always check it out, like an inspector verify. Anyway, I have gone through all of these permutations. I just want to let you know again that closures require more load, therefore more. So the same two items, you can compare them, and it goes on and on. And I think I've exhausted that to the nth degree, and I will just move on. I'm glad that those were close together so we could do a comparison of one to the other. And so this is just repeats the same thing. Now, there's one item. There are cases that the doors are recessed. And if the recess is more than 8 inch, what happens? You can only do the following. If it is more, you technically become only a front approach. You don't have a latch or hinge approach, etc. In both cases, you are now on the pull side. On the pull side, you go back to the original case of 60 inches and 18 inch here, and versus 48 inch and 48 inch, and you go from there. Okay, and don't forget this, you do not need the 12 inch here because you're passing through. But if you do need to have a closure, guess what? You have a closure inlet. Now you got the 12 inch. Now, this is where I like to bring in the high rise that I'm working in. I've been there 20 years now. Come on. Come on, eraser. Okay. Okay, my eraser is working. What is happening is, don't forget, the building was started occupying in 1963, okay? It is at this position and has no way, there's no means and methods. There is a giant air shaft right here that you cannot do. There's a giant elevators here. So there's nothing you can do. So the only solution, automatic doors. Okay, now there are multiple ways of automatic doors. There are those which is called assist, and there are those which are automatically open. Assist are two ways, 3 ways now. One, the motion sensor picks it up and opens. The other one is a push button. And the third one is that slight touch to the door. It opens the door. There are those 3, okay? So the maneuvering components are there, and that's the case. By the way, you can't touch that bowling. That's like a song, you can touch that, so go from there. And this is the part that I mentioned, you can sort of cheat, and you have it. Now, the doors and the closures and the latches, you do have the numbers, and you have to add if you have them. So all of what I said is it's embedded into this. Of course, it was more graphical, and it took me 30 minutes to get over it. So, but one of the items that I have is this. Remember we said about the 32 inch. The average standard adult side wheelchair is 27 inches. Therefore, 32 inch is okay. Okay, stay with that. Now, this is an issue in multiple formats. One is where you have the, one is called the high heel shoes. I cannot draw a lady's shoe, or here is I was working on a Fairbanks School District project. High toe or high heel toe is about 1/4 inch. This has to be, I forgot, it's either 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, but they promote all your floor grates to be 1/4 inch, not 1/2 inch. However, if you have an element, you have some sort of a travel grates, etc., that you have to put in for rain, for whatever reason, I'm going to leave you for that. They're looking at 1/2 inch maximum opening, but I would go with 1/4 inch because, again, you do not want to have Jacobian Myers call you, okay? Again, don't forget, deflection of any lawsuit is $5,000, even if you haven't done anything. And by the time you write, you have to take 2 or 3 of your individuals out of your company, create a monumental timelines, timesheets, go back to your schooling, all that, identify that everything that you did was hunky-dory, and then you're going to go in front of some sort of an intermediate group, and you're going to say, I have nothing to do with it. You lose $5,000 worth of work. All that time away, please, 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 1/4 inch. Do not go with what's here, okay? You do not want to, there is something in court system called prudent avoidance. Design it in such a way that if happens in nuclear, we call it fail safe. Even if it failed, it was safe. By the way, with 4 degrees that I have, 3 in nuclear, all I can tell you is that nuclear makes you a chicken. It really scares you. And that's one of the reasons I really got onto COVID's what is called probability analysis of this and that. It was wow. It took me to my nuclear days. Now, let's go back. You have multiple types of doors. Of course, sliding doors. Sliding doors, watch out, because I've been fixing my own. The elements that are on top here, and I'm sure all of these right here, there are very, 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 very few places that you could go and get a replacement parts, especially if they came from Europe. You can kiss that goodbye, and you got to go. And then once you do that, the railing have to alter the whole system. The next thing you know, and don't forget, if you go to my plastic seminar, all plastics go from plasticity and they go to what's called thermoset. And what that means that if you look at the dashboard of your car, if it is stuck in, say, they start brittling and they keep breaking. So they lose the plastic. So all of these wheels that are on these wheels, you can kiss them goodbye in 5-10 years, depending on the temperature. If you're in a warm zone in Phoenix, wherever, these plastics will be gone in 5 years. And so if you have this, so I have a lot of experience with these doors. So to go back to this, the door, if it is a sliding door, a folding door, whatever it is, we don't care. What's important at the end of the day is 32 inch in the final position. You can't squeeze it, you're done. Same here and same here. And mind you that your 36 inch door, by the time you're done with the door jamb, etc., and shimming and all of that, you are going to get barely 33 inches. And so just under FYI. So the doors, that's one item. I don't know if I have it on the hardware. I just don't remember now, but we'll see. The other issue that you have is the following. When you're going from one space to another, now I've done medical buildings, where med buildings or vestibules, etc. These have a distance for other reasons. This is volume-wise has to have certain depth, especially if you're going to get into a more climate of where the wind and cold is. You're going to have a vestibule in front of every large, box building, box structures, Walmarts, etc. But regardless, you must maintain 48 inches depending on the format. And don't forget, as an architect, if this is an egress, depending on how many people you have in the building, you got these panic hardware or no panic hardware, et cetera. And this could be simply a different environment, that this is just a corridor. Individual wants to go from here to there. Mind you, that's 48 inches. And so please, this have different applications, and also different forms. And if you're in the medical or pharmaceutical or these could be an area of refuge or whatever format, just please know that. But for the sake of argument for now, 48 inches from tip of the end of the door to the other door. Okay. Now, this one is very interesting. I'm just going to let you know the following. At the end of the day, a handicapped person can only uplift itself half an inch with a bevel system. If it was a perfect half an inch to that door, the only where the half an inch is okay is when you have a carpet pile, pile height. But the carpet again is a flexible element. However, if you have a solid square is quarter, and if you have a half-inch bevel primarily for steps, for changes, for little ants not to crawl into the space and all these good stuff, you will have these bevels. Again, all of these are calculated based on the individual's being able to push his body weight through this. And by the way, I can talk about whether this was lubricated, his machine was lubricated, and there's no friction on it, but those are assuming that he has a brand new car and wheelchair. Or if you have a door stopper, remember, you have the maximum 1/2 inch. If you recall, we said the only maximum allowable for the individual through a threshold is 1/4 inch. So if you do have it, and once it comes back, he rolls back, or he's going the other way at a slope of 1 to 2, and that's just the threshold. Okay. I'm just going to read it. Thresholds, if approved, if provided at doorways, shall be 1/2 inch high maximum, raised threshold, and changes in level at doorway shall comply with those 2 sections. We go on. Now, 606. I honestly, I forgot. I'm going to look something up. I forgot when we end. I forgot when we end. In any case, you cannot shut me up. I just keep continuing until somebody stops me. I'm going to go on. But anyway, you can buy these because the feet will damage. You can actually buy these elements, and because the door will be attacking to this, if not by the foot as well as the wheelchair. So the self-closure is allowed to be at 70 inches. The door height is 8 inches, but within that 10 inch, you want to have some sort of a railing because it will get punished. Now, these are some of the basic elements that I just put in. Depending on the accessible route of travel, 30-inch minimum, if 48 inches in both cases, 1 chair or 2 chairs. And again, this is just an allowable, just take it as gospel. There's no explanation here other than the depth that you have, whether you cannot squeeze in. And if you get extra, you got extra, but just an FYI. Those are the permutations that you have. 2 spaces, if it's a 1 space is 36, 2 spaces 33. Those are the wheelchair spaces. Most of these you can see at the auditorium waiting space. And when I teach at USC, you can see the wheelchair designated spaces if it's 2 space as minimum 66 versus 36. Accessible routes, again, mind you that if you're attacking to a chair, a desk, there is another issue about access with regard to the elements that needs access. The hand of the individual is 25-inch, reachable maximum 48 inches. So all the items is not part of this lecture. However, the wheelchair has to be able to sneak in 19-inch, minimum 30-inch. And don't forget, the actual wheelchair is 27.5 inches, but you need 30 inches to get in. And again, the approach 30-inch here. And if not, you have to have 48-inch here, depending on different geometries. Again, don't forget, if you would have given the poor man or poor lady 30 inches, oh boy, how many 4-letter words you might hopefully would be stating, or goodness says, oh, they did not take Psalms class. Anyway, now when you're passing through a turn, etc., some of these do apply at the for stairways, which we will not get at this point. But if you do have 36 for the stairway or the passageway, it increases to 60. But if it is 42, you get to 48. Now, mind you, within that 36, you still got the handrail. Mind you, some of the structural elements may impede these pathways. This is assuming clear. The word is CLR. Okay. That's something we cannot have an artistic element protruding out, etc. So those are some of the areas. So this would be the norm. That would be the exceptions. Now, a ramp. First of all, any change of elevation is called a riser. But we are going to speak about ramps right now, and we're going to be there for a while, and we'll keep going till somebody stops me. But I do want to reserve 15 minutes to go over just a listing of those errors and omissions. Maybe after ramps, I'll jump into that because I don't want to miss that. And then I'll come back to my slides. Okay, now there's two parts. You have a walkway that simply says that we are going for a short distance and it's just a walkway. But if you're going for a long distance, you're talking about a ramp. A ramp is considered from 5% to 8.33%. So 1 to 20 to 1 to 12. I'm just going to throw you at this, that at this ratio, you're talking about technically 30 feet of run. Once you reach to that 30 feet, I'm sorry, I need to take a rest. You have this place, you could use that to turn around, etc., or still you're going forward. The other issue is this: if the ramp is going at this at 1 to 12, the issue is you cannot have that flat. If it rains, you're going to have puddles. So you can have a 2% slope. Okay, what is 2%? If you're in plumbing, or if you're a civil engineer, 2% is 1 foot in 100 foot, right? Or 2 feet in 100 foot is 2%. But really 2% is not too, we call this exactly 1%. We call this exactly 2%. In plumbing, they have this approximately 1/8 of it per foot, this one 1/4 of an inch per foot. Okay, by the way, it's not exact, but just know 1/8 of inch per 1/8 of an inch a slope per foot is approximately 1 inch. 1/4 of an inch per foot is approximately 2 inches. It's actually 2.083. But civil engineers use this and plumbing engineers use that. At the end of the day, you all go 1 to 12. You just go with rise and run. Okay. I don't know who can tell when they did all the pyramids. They were using Pythagoras theorem, which was a square b square is equal to c square, and that gave them the 90 degrees. They use that just about for everything. By the way, Pythagoras was a socialist. He was a genius from age of 12. He made his, by the way, they were all city states. Everybody was equal. Everybody was through the ABC. So he was a absolute socialist. But by the time he got out, this was used throughout. That's why the pyramids are perfectly 90 degrees. They did not have slide rule. They just had, and no calculators either. But overall, you use these ratios as rise or run. 5%, remember, 8.33%, remember, 30 feet. Remember, what is this 30 inch? What is happening is this: if you have 30 feet of run, you're going to be rising 30 inch up. So once you rise 30 inch up, guess what happens? Somebody's going to fall. So what happens is that now that you have this element is at 30 inch up, you will put some sort of protection. You will put guardrails, etc., for the individuals not to fall. Now, that guardrail, ironically, is not being used as the same guardrail that we look at stairs, because a little kid is going to go through it, and that kid can squeeze themselves in what is it, 3.5 inch and pass through and die. This, the only issues that they look for is essentially two parts. One is the height. One is the height, and the other, sorry, if the guardrail is here, one is the height, which is 34 inches to 38 inches. And the other item is they need something here. This can be 2 inches up to 4 inches. You could put a railing there. If anybody could guess, why would we need something there? You can have other elements here if you wish, but this is critical. That is critical. That is critical primarily because of the wheel of this right here, the wheel of the wheelchair. That's where, otherwise, if it's too small, it can get stuck and twisted, and the guy's literally stuck. Okay, stay with me. By the way, we'll get to a little more details. I'm just putting these numbers. I just picked them up from my ARE notes that I had for the ARE classes for USC. So anyway, all landing, if the guy is going straight, it's going straight, 72 inches. But if the guy, by the way, the path, when you start with 36, you can't change it. But if you are starting with 36 and you have to take a rest and you're going straight, the landing is 72 inches. If you're doing a turn on the direction of the path, if turning a landing is 60 by 72, top landing 60 by 60 without having the door intruding onto that, and we'll get there. Now, for egress is 72 inches, for ADA is 60 inches. So chapter 10, egress, and chapter 11 do conflict, and it is easier. Now, chapter 10 came from NFPA 101, and if you take that book, that is literally the grandfather of your building code for egress, for everything. They should, from my point of view, should have just one number and call it a day, call it 72. But for egress is 72, for egress is 70, not for accessibility, is only 60 inches of top, sorry. For egress, 76, 72, but anyway. Landing for egress is 60 inch by the, so for, anyway, I'm confusing myself. I'm going to give you this right here. Okay, for egress, 60 inch, you can stay. For ADA is 72 inch on the path of travel. Sorry if I confused you. See, that's your path of travel. That's the direction, not path of travel, direction of the travel. So if you're in the direction of the travel in the path, you need the 72 for accessibility to keep the wheelchair guy happy. This is to keep the guy happy from leaving the building, right? Leaving the building. Egress, by the way, when you deal with egress, the mission is right away. Remember when we talked about right away in the beginning? You know, the architect designs the egress so that he leaves the building all the way to the side of the road where the right away is. That's how the code is read. So 72 inch for accessibility, 60 by that. And again, every 30 feet, you have some sort of a landing. This is an intermediate landing, top landing, the bottom landing, okay? So, and these are your flights or your runways per se, okay? Now, again, we go back to what we said. I have more slides on this. You may just hate me because I have too many slides on this, but I just felt repeating it is good. Maybe after ramp is 6:20. At 6:30, I'm going to jump on the errors and omissions. I'll come back to this. Anyway, 48 inch clear between the handrails, the rise 30 inches maximum, and every time you reach, you have to have your railing, etc. Slope 1 to 12 maximum, and that's for the rain. The maximum slope on the ramp runs 148. I'm going to confuse I'm going to stay with my original. Let me do this. Before I see these slides, I don't want to lose my chance of going these errors, these lawsuits. And I'm going to verify that I am sharing this. Let me see. I am there. I'm just verifying. Okay. By the way, it is very, very easy for me to find this. I did a 4 years ago for an engineering group. I did 4 hours of lectures on errors and omissions, and I simply took some 60 to 70 cases from 2013 to 2017. Now, the beauty of that versus this seminar is that it was interactive. I would simply say what the case was, what was the engineers, I had about 55 engineers there. What would be their format if they were the judge or the jury? How would they decide? Lo and behold, almost a majority of the time they were all wrong. So I want to scare you to simply say these errors and omissions have occurred in new constructions and alterations. I'm just going to at least name them, okay? So these are the errors that have occurred, and please do not repeat them. Don't forget, Jacobian Myers likes to call, and telephone calls are free now. So let's go back. Errors and omission. The built-up curb ramp project into the access aisle. The accessible parking space and access aisle is not leveled in all directions. Let me go back. There's one issue that you have. Don't forget, you're not creating a roller coaster, and a 2% is the maximum. Don't forget, what was 2%? That was quarter-inch rainfall. It's the same as what you do on a roof when you're putting your roof line together. It was 2%, 2 feet and 100 feet, rise or run, etc. Anyway, they did not give any format or it was beyond 2%. Please watch out. Okay, errors and omission. There is no accessible route from accessible parking to an accessible entrance. Again, one of the issues that I have, majority of the times when I see the TI, when I see the corrections coming in for the architect, even if they're using the hardship, they're not going to the right of way, which is where the bus is. Majority of the time, the landscape guy has built up stuff, they have done stuff. And when I'm looking at, I always look, how is this handicapped person coming off of the bus? Original building had it, even in 2010, but right now they have covered it up. The only thing that the plan checker is looking is from the parking stall back to this. Now, with all of these enterprise zones and all these buildings in LA, in Santa Ana, where they're promoting not to have a parking, they're promoting to have parking space, using the buses. All of these, if the guy comes to your work and the guy does not have these access from the right of way, and all of these are blocked, God bless. Now, the guy gets off the bus, comes through, hopefully he can have the blue stripe all the way without protruding, without having elements, all the way to the door entrance. Now, in this particular case, you are getting off the parking spaces. You have that car. The guy, in most of the cases, I see the individual has to go to the back of the car, go through multiple cases. And recently, I forgot where it was, just recently, it was the guy, it was not intentional, it was one of these rallies. The guy simply goes with the old man, rather than forward, backward, forward, and injures a lot of people. Meaning that, a lot of us, we are in a hurry, we got to call 911. We are trying to make sure that the individual will actually get in on the back right here. You see this? I don't want to mess up. I can draw on it, but I don't want to do it right now. But right here is where you do not want to guide the person from the back of the car. You want to go on the side, have the proper spacing, and give them a traffic-free route. No van accessible spaces in the parking. Now, don't forget, you're supposed to have one minimum parking space. Up to 25 parking stalls going to be one, right? You're going to give them one. If it is one, it has to be van accessible, right? If you're giving the second one, it does not have to be. Now, once you go to, from 25 to 50 or any fraction of, then the question is, if you are giving a van accessible, it must have the proper spacing, which is about 8 feet minimum for that to happen. Accessible route exterior, pedestrian routes on a site from public transportation stops, route accessible to parking spaces, passenger loading spaces, public streets, sideways to accessible entrances. And I can tell you that I can, or any individual can go to a building and file a claim. Now, of course, you've got to be an attorney to do it. The ambulance chasers are gone now because the court says you have six months to do it. But as a citizen, I can go to the individual and say, excuse me, this is wrong, and I'm going to give you 6 months, or you can call the ADA or state ADA accessible and put the warning sign, and you can get a warning to the owners. So anyway, I do not see this, and it's all over everywhere that I go, okay? Curb ramp is located across a circulation path at steep, unprotected side flares. Now, I will give you right after this when we go back, and I will talk about the curbs. The side, as soon as you have the ramp that goes down, which is 36 inches, and you have the protruded yellow curbs that you have, those items that you have for the blind person. The issue is that the side ramps, you will have a maximum of 1 to 10, because that flare, which is the side, the flares is on these sides. You see these right here. By the way, this is called a turning route, right in the back. This is a turning. I want to do it. Okay, I think I have it. No, sorry, I punched too many. It's one shot, I think. One. Okay, I got it. So what happens is this, that right here, didn't do it. Hell with it. I'm not going to mess with it. So I have other slides. So these flares, which are coming up, they were not at a higher than 1/10. And lo and behold, these are done mostly by civil engineers. The architects are involved, but civil engineers still there. But if the architect and the team are there, remember Ed Ollie and others, including my grandmother, everybody will be sued. Air and omission. Landing areas where the ramp changed directions, switchback or 90 degrees is too small. Remember the 60 by 60 that was there for the landing? But of course, don't forget, instead of California, I showed you the 72 inch, it's 72. But if you're taking the ADA, the ARE exam, which is a federal exam, that would be 60 by 60. So the minimum is 60 by 60, but in the path of direction is 72, and you saw that, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, that was not the case. It was too small. By the way, don't forget, you could have, I have seen the case that it was in the city of Newport Beach. I'm, by the way, on the Fire and Board Commission. And I've seen a case that somebody showed me that the city caught them when they put in a veneer, and these veneers were stones. And these stones, they have different protrusions, they have different elements. Some of them are flat and some of them have 2-inch protrusion. And that cut out part of their 60-inch easement. The easement was shortened by 2-3 inches. But anyway, just to let you know, as an architect, watch out with these other elements. So part of the accessible route with slope that exceeds, not to exceed 1 to 20, lacks the required, including handrails, edge protections, etc. Don't forget, the edge protection was that 2-inch to 4-inch that you have to have. If you put a rail, we'll talk about that when we get there, but that is primarily for the wheels, and the top is for the person not to fall, for handrails. And in this particular case, they did not exceed the 2% is for the rainfall. It exceeded the 2. So I'm just repeating, but these were court cases, okay? We do not want to be there. Okay. Handrails extensions are not provided at top and the bottom of the risers. Now, when we get to that part, you will see that the by the way, just to let you know, the reference point for the height of the handrails is the edge of the nose of the stairway, okay? Edge of the nose. The beginning of the nose and the end of the nose is your primary reference, the first nose and the final nose, okay? So from the beginning of the nose, you need 12-inch before the stairs begin and the final nose 12-inch after. Those are called handrail extensions. You must have them. Apparently, they did not put it in. I know in one of the downtown projects, I saw the welder was back. Why are you back? Ah, we forgot. They messed up those extensions. These extensions, you can see them on here, right here, right here, right here. So anyway. By the way, my computer can do it, but I'm scared of making a boo-boo and we go in a circle, especially this file is very, very large. Now, adequate maneuvering clearance is not provided at the door, including doors accessible to toilet stalls. We talked about it, but there is one item, if I forget. Remember when you get to the top landing and there's a door? If the door is actually on a pull side, you must ensure that you have your 66 outside of the radius of the pole, okay? This one was, we talked about the fact that they did not have proper railing. And again, don't forget, these are cases and they are lawsuits that have occurred. It's not for others. We just don't want it to happen to us. Shape of the door hardware requires tight grasping, pinching, twisting of the wrist to use. Again, let me give you one item. All of us, God bless, will live to 120 and 150. I will guarantee you 100% that our hinges through all of our bone system will start hurting and we'll get arthritis at some point. And they all live 150 years everlasting, but I can tell you, we will not be in Kansas anymore. We'll be out of Kansas and our bones will be different. So the issue is this: whether it's a doorknob, whether it's a handle, et cetera, remember, no grasping, no pinching, and no twisting. It has to be pure pressure with minimum pressure. Hopefully they have used WD-40 on the doors, knocks, et cetera. They're not squeaking like, Friday the 13th, right? So essentially, if you do not have those hand lever operated. I can tell you in my own case, in my own home, I bought Baldwin, and Baldwin, by the way, has as one of the few groups who have a patent on the brass not to get oxidated. Okay, that's why I got it. When you're in Newport, that's what you get. So anyway, I picked it up, I bought it, etc. The individual who came in to make my doors and the holes, etc., punched wrong. I do not have a door handle, lever hander in my front home. So every time I got to get a tea or something, I got to put down and I'd add more steps. But anyway, that was a very, very expensive door from TM Cop Doors. So I could not mess that up. I did not want to patch it. Okay, circulation path. Remember we talked about a person who is either has hard of eye vision or technically blind. The most critical path is, as you know, all of these drinking fountains have the proper protection. That, or again, in one of those high rises, I saw a giant air duct actually protruding out of the wall with no protection. And that really is bad. And again, is a very, very large architect. Unfortunately, they're not there, or they're not taking this class. In any case, that's a passage. That was a lawsuit. In fact, since I'm the engineer for that building, I I made sure that they have it. Now, if you have that national bank there, remember if that national bank was inserted into the wall and what was protruding was only 4 inches, no problemo. However, they do have an obstacle there. I have reached a point that I'm going to ask somebody. I forgot. Was it 6:30 or 7? This was 2.5 hours. Jeff, are you still there?
This is Carissa. You were done at 6:30.
Ouch! Ouch! I told you guys, if you don't stop me, I'll go for midnight, and you will. I do not want to see you guys in divorce court. So anyway, all I can say is the following: I have more and more and more of these. Okay, what I pray is that whatever I have said, maybe I have been preaching to the gospel to the individuals who are breathing and working, et cetera, et cetera. But my prayer is we do not have errors or omissions, okay? We do not want to have an extra beer or cerveza, or we have a junior guy who simply cut and paste stuff. We do not want to get there. That's why I believe AIA pushes it. And that's why I have to go for my other licenses, get CEUs. And by the way, and because of many states, I have to take ethical test. I believe they believe that every year I become an unethical person. Therefore, I got to take ethics test. But regardless, they don't trust us. That's why we are here. God bless you. I know there was one question that somebody asked. I will go back to it at some point and I will drop it in there. And if you can, and before I let this go on the chat room, I'm gonna go ahead, pick up all these questions and comments. I will package them, refurbish them, and drop them in there. But anyway, God bless you all. Stay safe. Make sure you get the vaccine. Please, please, please. A lot of my buildings are slowly adopting those conditions that I've noted on my COVID lectures. They're buying BPIs, they are putting UVCs. Please ask your engineers, whoever put them in there. And slowly they're building those items. And I have more warnings. Please go to the two YouTubes is there. The YouTube of part 1 of this is already there, and I have the reference in my upload. So God bless you all. If you have any questions, I am 8 minutes over. I'll buy you all Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke. Let me know. There's only 99 cents at the 99-cent store, just to let you know. There's 47 of you, so thank you for all of you. Krista?